What will it look like as the countries say, give us our money, they say no, that's already happening. What will that do? Will that create even more uncertainty with the IOUs? And how long can the globalists pay off the Chinese, the Germans, and others with bags of cash that is being devalued? And what happens once the dollar does lose its status? I mean, what type of bonker insanity? These dollars have been buying everybody off so far by the globalists. I guess the globalists will just move to another country and we'll get the blame for it. I think that's the answer. But we're going to find out, is Max Keiser going to be right in April or within a few months of that? Is it going to be the next level of collapse? And what will that signify? I'm Alex Jones, and this is the Info War. A few months ago, a listener, if you're watching on TV, sent us this Obama snow globe. And when we shake it up, it was our Christmas present, it's totally and completely filthy inside, which I thought was fitting. It's clouded and looks like there's bacteria or sewage in it. So let me shake this up for everybody and show the viewers a document cam shot. There you go. So thanks for the Christmas present. It turned out even better than we thought. It came in the official packaging and everything. So probably made in China and probably has like fetid urine in it or something. I don't know. But there you go. Going back to Max Keiser of MaxKeiser.com. You can follow us on Twitter at RealAlexJones. And where is the best Twitter for you, Max? There's several big ones out there.
Well, just Max Keiser. So it's Twitter/Max Keiser.
Okay, you heard my long-winded question before the break. What does the next stage of collapse look like, and what will happen?
Well, I'm just reading Zero Hedge. They got a story up right now. Mervyn King, Bank of England, is talking about rebalancing to avoid a currency war, and that's a big moment because he acknowledges that we're in a currency war. The UK pound is going to have to be revalued down sharply. That means purchasing power in the UK is going to collapse. As you know, I moved to London from Paris to observe and to report on the collapse of the UK pound and the UK economy because it's one of the most vulnerable economies in the world because they have so little gold after Gordon Brown sold most of it back in 2001. So this is another shoe to drop. This is another chapter in the collapse of these paper money empires, and of course gold and silver are acting fantastically well so far this year, and it's just playing out exactly as we said it would over the past couple of years, and 2013 looks to be a continuation.
So looking into your crystal ball, things are right on schedule.
Pretty much. I see that the economy, that growth needed to pay the debt is a quantity that will never come to pass. And I'll give you a good example of how to determine that. The amount of debt in the world, or even in the U.S. with its many, many trillions of dollars of debt, to pay that debt off, it would, of course, be a subset of the tax being collected on growth. Okay, so how much tax and how much growth would be required to pay the debt? Well, all growth in the modern economy is tied to oil. And if you were to burn 1 trillion barrels of oil, approximately the same amount of barrels of oil that have been burned so far in the last 100 years, if you were to burn another 1 trillion barrels of oil, you would not generate enough taxable income to pay off the current debt. That's to give you an idea of how much debt there is. So, in other words, this debt is never going to be paid off. Jobs are never coming back. Wages will continue to crash. And the bond market collapse is coming, and gold and silver are going to go a lot higher. There's just no way around it.
Max, we're going to do a little bit of overdrive here when we come back, but all I can say is this. You look at how they've tried to destroy women, destroy the family, how MTV has pushed gangster and jackass cultures on people, how it's been sold that men are supposed to be weak and stupid or thug-like. I mean, why would the system try to degenerate society? I guess for the casino gulag model that you talked about, and it's all happening.
Well, you said a moment ago, you talked about what's the end game for the elites. I mean, look what Glenn Beck is doing. He's trying to create he's got $2 billion. He wants to create his own village, his own society down there in Texas. The Koch brothers want to buy an island in Detroit and create their own, their own society. you've got 2 or 3 examples now of these elites wanting to build their own castles, their own neo-feudal, basically.
No, they've said that's the model, and then they're going to call it libertarian.
While we fight to retain our liberty, while we fight to expose globalism, we have to realize we're talking about a very powerful combination of power.
Renowned author and expert Joel Skousen breaks down the globalist plan to shut down America and stage a new world war.
In one day, America will go from day to night. And if you haven't prepared in advance, there's not enough time to prepare in 24 hours, even if you saw it that early.
Coming to the InfoWar in November is our new documentary film presentation.
Strategic relocation is a systematic way to think strategically in the future about how do I safeguard.
Joel Skousen, Strategic Relocation.
The freeways are going to be crowded, they're going to run out of gasoline, they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start to go north and south of those freeways.
Joel Skousen is renowned as one of the world's foremost experts in strategic relocation and the securing of your home.
We talk about natural disasters, the health environment, we talk about pollution, the water quality. My personal experience about being in every one of these states.
Government is digging in for the organized, incremental collapse of society and world war.
The U.S. isn't building huge underground bases and bunkers because of some terrorist threat. They know that a massive nuclear attack is coming. They want that attack to come. Most people won't even be ready and won't be able to get out of town when any of these nuclear weapons fall, because there'll be absolute panic.
There is no preparedness without strategy.
What I tell people is that you do have time. Prepare wisely in advance.
This Christmas, give the gift of preparedness. Strategic Relocation, the film, with Joel Skousen and Alex Jones. You see, the globalists have exempted themselves from all the laws, regulations, and rules that they've created and pushed so that only they can operate. And so they're going to have city-states that are outside of the law and given special licensure by the power structure so the elites can live in those. They're then going to get the scared middle class to pay exorbitant prices to live within the castle walls. And we actually covered that in a bunch of recent reports we did last year, breaking that down. And again, after they collapse and suck everything together, then, like this big Bilderberg group member has talked about the floating cities and all the rest of it, I'm going to do a special report on this. Then they exempt themselves, and you've got to go live in their system if you have any money. I mean, they figured it all out. That's why they're getting rid of nation states with a global crime syndicate above it, who then will get their own private zones where they can operate however they want. And yeah, can you imagine? It's like Zeitgeist, living in Glenn Beck's $2 billion libertarian heaven in Texas. And I knew they were looking at stuff outside Austin. In fact, I knew Glenn Beck was moving to Texas before he did. And I said it could be Austin because they were looking at properties here. And I just hope he doesn't move and set up a bit. I mean, whatever. It's a free country, I guess. He can come set up his utopia here. I know I'm not going to be living in it, but see, if you're an insider, you're going to be able to get deals as a stakeholder under Agenda 21 to have lesser taxes. It's going to generate its own power, its own food, so you live in kind of like the Glenn Beck gulag. Man, I tell you, they've really thought all this out, Max Keiser.
I think you're going to see one of these, whether it's the Koch brothers or Glenn Beck. I think it's going to be another situation like the Hale Bopp Comet cult or the Jim Jones Guyana cult. They become very insular. After 10 years, people start going mad, and then there's mass suicide. I mean, that's where Glenn Beck is going. We're going to read about him in 10 years as the guy who convinced 2,000 people to drink the Kool-Aid and commit suicide chasing his idea of whatever he's mumbling on about. Because when you secede from society and you set yourself up as, in some way, living according to an ethos that is completely divorced from anything that we know and appreciate as a democratic system, let's call it, or an American system or an egalitarian system, you become prone to egomaniacal dictator-like psychopaths like Glenn Beck, who rise up and realize that the only way that he can escape facing the reality of his own shortcomings is to convince everyone and himself to kill themselves. And that's where he's headed.
Well, I'm going to tell you where he's headed. It's headed to sell real estate plan. You know what's incredible? I was actually approached.